I'm really looking forward to this session today, which is about validity of knowledge. So this will be a series. The validity of knowledge will be a series, and the first part of the series. I mean, the previous sessions have been kind of queuing up to this. This part will be about stages of analyzing an object or stages of observation. How exactly what happens when we see something? How do we react? How do we sense? How do we perceive? How do we get to the response section? So like one by one, if we start thinking about, this is the stage where I am at when I'm receiving any information, any sense data, it can really help us to think about nuances of our observation. And what I'll do now is I will ask Mitesh uncle to walk us through this topic a little more, and then he will direct everyone this with this session, because this will be a really interactive session. We want everyone to speak. We want everyone to question. We want everyone to be curious, and just we would love to have a similar debate, or if not a livelier one. We're really excited for this session. So on to you, Mitesh uncle.
Okay, thank you, Nupur. Welcome everyone. I would like to welcome the new participants as well, because there are a lot of other new participants they requested to join the session for this upcoming session right now. So I would like to welcome all of you. I hope you had a chance to look at all the 5 sessions last time. It was uploaded on the YouTube, so they are available. We discussed last time about objectivity and subjectivity, and as far as the branches of knowledge, we learn all the 4 branches of knowledge, and we have to keep our senses open about having the 4 branches of knowledge, and objectivity in subjectivity as well as subjectivity in objectivity. So don't close the mind, but keep it open for everything. And I think this next session is definitely is going to help us on analyzing the object. So particularly in this session, Nupur, can you bring the next slide, please?
Yes.
So what we are going to do is actually we are going to have this session completely open discussion. I would like to have participants to actually come forward and actually analyze this diagram and just let us know when you see the object, how do you see the object and how the flow is coming from the object and coming to us as a subject, and then how you interact with the object. So this is the first slide I would like to introduce to all of you. And then I would like to particularly ask young participants, please feel free to ask anything on this session and give your suggestion here, like how do you interact the object. So I would like to keep this session open for now, and I request everyone to please raise your hand, and then we can go one by one. Like, how do you see, what do you see in this diagram, and just illustrate in 1 minute. Thank you. Please raise your hand or unmute yourself and just tell 1 minute. What do you see here?
I would also encourage everyone to turn on the camera, especially when they're speaking. It'll be really good to see you.
We would like to have a very interactive session, so then everybody can have an open, they can bring anything in the table that will help us to actually understand from all of your perspective. Anyone, please? Otherwise, I'm going to pick one of you.
I'll just speak. Hello.
Hello.
Can I say?
Sure.
This is actually, we can say that there is an object which is perceived with our senses, and that goes to the mind, and we also perceive any object with the help of our body organs also. both ways, there is always a response and reaction. Information is both the ways we can get from our senses as well as our organs. Am I audible?
Yeah, no, it's perfectly fine. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, good
Yeah.
explanation. I would like to pick
Thank you.
one Sanvi.
तारू तारा माला मैं चालू कर दे बेटा. I might have to first.
What I see in this image is basically when we look at an object, we perceive an object based off of our senses. So our eyes can see the object, and our ears are the key to listen, to hear the object, and our nose is there to smell the object, and our hands are there to touch the object, and our mouth is there as a tasting. So these senses are the key. There's all our body parts, behind our body parts, there's a sense that helps us understand more about the object and help us see the object and understand the object more deeply than we could without these senses. And these senses whatever information is collected by these senses go to our mind, and our mind helps us our mind figures out how to react to those senses, and like it says here, like motor organs. So based off of the information, our mind figures out how to react to them.
Really good explanation. Very well. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, this is really good. Anybody else would like
So
to?
yeah, I would just like to add that after the mind receives the information from these organs, sense organs like eyes, ears, and all, the response is given by mind through our motor organs like hands, legs, whatever. Our mind instructs these organs to give a response towards what to do with the object. That's completing the cycle.
Perfect. Yeah. Anything else, like how this process normally goes is really very well explained here, but like you guys can probably know how quick this process is and what are the stages that we think about it. Also is a good for discussion ourselves right now, like how we sense the data, how the stimulation happen, how our sense organ is actually looking at the object, and then get the information from mind going back to motor organ. So anybody else would like to put any
Yeah.
additional information,
Aryan
that would
had-
be great.
Aryan had raised the hand, so Aryan.
Yeah, I just so as you pointed out, based on the object, it stimulates our organs. So we use our sense organs to observe the object, and then that sends information to our brain. And then, if necessary, the brain can respond and react through the motor organs and towards the object. And then, I guess our cycle repeats. So it's basically just a cycle of how your mind can interpret objects or what things around us using our sense organs.
Great. Yeah. Great explanation. Anybody else? There are a lot of participants. Please come on. Turn your camera on.
Nilesh uncle is raising his hand. You're muted, Nilesh uncle. We can't hear you.
I can pick other person.
Sanvi wants to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add that like this entire process or this entire cycle happens really fast, that there's more of a chance to make mistakes whenever we're trying to react to something that we see through our senses. So if we're able to like have more of a stimulation and together have more of a span of time to gather the information, then we will be able to have more of an accurate response or more of a thoughtful response to whatever we see to prevent mistakes from happening. And I also want to add that I think there's like something else beyond the senses, something that we can't see or experience, but there's something that helps power those organs or those senses to help us understand and analyze the object. That there's something within us, I think it's called the tanmatras, that help us understand, help key in the senses to work and power.
Yeah, that's
That was beautiful,
So
actually.
it sounds a
Yeah.
lot like Sixth Sense, what she was describing, maybe.
Sixth sense would be the sixth sense. What she's talking about is like how these 5 sense organs and even motor organs are powered, like the electricity that powers the machine. Is that what you're saying, Sanvi?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you guys think like here in the diagram, it shows that, you know, there is an input and there is an output. So do you guys think sense organs are responsible for all the input and motor organs are responsible for all the output? Or do you think it can be like even sense organs can have output and motor organs can have input?
Of
What are
course,
your
sense
thoughts on
organs can also have output. Like, for example, you can blink an eye to which is a reaction to certain things, or you can like maybe just do stuff with your nose and hands and whatever. So it can be like brain can instruct these organs to to do a particular response or reaction for whatever stimulation it has received from these sense organs.
Mhm. What about the ears? How can ears react to a particular sound?
Hmm. Not I wasn't talking about all the organs, maybe like eyes you can blink and all.
Yes, yes. And what would be the example of motor organs receiving input?
I don't think so that is possible. Like if you're talking about hands, they're already like skin, which indicates skin, so it is used for feeling stuff. But motor organs, if you talk about it in that context, then I don't think they can perceive anything. They are just for the output process.
Right, okay. Does anyone have any examples to share for motor organs receiving any inputs?
I didn't mention about one thing about I didn't mention about stimulation is coming from the object. Aryan, can you elaborate more like on how that senses organ, like the stimulation from the object, and what are the element that you're talking about, the stimulation coming from the object? If you, that would be great.
Yeah, so I think like even the motor organs and the sense organs are basically some of the same things. Like you can see that whenever an object gives a stimulation, so like for example, if somebody throws a ball, then the sense organs, like you use your eyes to like capture the ball's trajectory. You have to use your hands to catch the ball. So like based on those two stimulations, your mind is able to process that information and accordingly also like move your hand in a certain direction towards catching the ball, or moving your feet in a certain direction to catch the ball if you had to run to catch the ball. So it's a cycle of stimulation and reaction as per your brains. And then the motor organs or sense organs are sort of the input and output. So like the input and it gives information, and then use the motor organs to like sort of react to the information that has been given. But it is also important to note that the sense organs as well as the motor organs are sort of the same, because you can see that you can use your motor organs to also sort of respond to your sense organs. So they're basically the same thing. So I mean, you can technically say that your motor organs do have an input because they're saying the same thing as the sense organs.
Yeah, no, that's really great
Mitesh,
explanation.
I would like to add to this also. For example, not just if a ball is coming towards us, but even if some object is there who is stationary, it is still emitting data like its color, its dimensions, and all. So which can be perceived by our eyes Or for example, if any speaker is there, it is emitting some sound, so that data is perceived by our ears. So basically that is what you were trying to talk about, I guess.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to see. Like there are different subtle element that actually stimulates our sensory organs. So, and I think this is we see it very fraction of a second, but there are different, like there is a different process that has happened actually throughout this process, but it is so quick that we cannot differentiate definitely. I think that's a one point. And I think the main point is we would like to see that how we can differentiate how this thing happening right now. So we had a
Mhm.
really great discussion. And I think you can see an example, like when you see any flower in front of you, we can right away figure it out. This is what kind of flower is coming on, and then what the color is, what the shape is there. So that's everything comes in a mind within a fraction of a second. So there are different processes that happen. It's really great discussion. Anybody would like to actually have another input?
Haley,
It would be grateful.
Haley Parekh has raised her hand.
Yeah, so I would also like to add that these senses are also like really vital when it comes to emergencies. And like, let's say if you hear a fire alarm and then you smell something burning, you immediately know that you need to run, and then you just act by instinct. So your brain like sends messages to all your other parts, and you don't have to think and put as much brain power. It just happens by instinct.
Okay, that
Yeah,
was a
that's-
really good point. Who
You are?
is the one who's raised the hand now? I can't see your name, sorry.
So I
Eva,
have some, yeah, I have something to say about when we were discussing how when you like throw the ball, you're using the motor organs as an input, but I still feel like it's still an output, because when you think about it, if you're holding the ball in your hand, then someone, let's say you're playing catch with someone and you know that you have to throw the ball. So it's like still your like eyes or your ears when you hear someone say throw the ball, and then your brain perceives that information and then you use your hands to throw the ball. So I still think that's an output. Like I don't understand how it would be an input.
Yeah.
Aryan, do you want to defend how you think? Do you want to defend the point? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, sure. I think what I was trying to say is that the motor organs and sense organs are like sort of the same. That's what I wanted to say. Like the differentiation between, like, for example, their hands as sense organs and motor organs should like it's just a differentiation, but like I was trying to say that motor organs, like the same motor organs that you use to respond to a stimulation, is also the same motor organs that you use to like sort of like input. So it's like sort of like the output can also be the input, in the sense that the same objects that you're using to respond to the stimulation is also the same input for the type of stimulation that you send to your brain. Because for the example of the throwing the ball, you can see that the motor organs of the hands, the eyesight is also the same one, as they're both the sense organs and motor organs. So basically, I was trying to say that the motor organs and sense organs are like the same sort of organs, but you just the role that they play in responding is just different. It's just saying like some of them are for input and then some of them for output. It's just differentiating, but they're both the same. For example, you can see the hands, and then you can see the lips, and you can see I think that's the eyes, but it's just like, I guess just like saying like they're both similar.
So
Yeah,
I
that
think
makes sense.
you're trying to say that physically they are both the same, but maybe in terms of functioning, they may be different, right? Like how you see the things and how you react to the things, right? The object. So from the physical perspective, look the same, but maybe function-wise, they may be different, right? Is that you're trying to say, Aryan?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like saying like physically, the motor organs and sense organs are the same, but like the way you respond to, I guess, stimulation is different.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you're saying that like they work together. That's why it
Yeah,
works.
they
as
work
both
together,
entities.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, no, great. Yeah.
Okay, there are 3 participants who raised hands.
And we'll-
Nilesh uncle,
We'll
2
take a
now.
1 minute. Yeah. And then
Yeah, move on to the next one. Yeah, Nilesh uncle, we can't hear you. We can't, you're muted. Haley, meanwhile, you can speak. Is Haley around?
Haley?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to lower my hand from last time.
Okay. So
All right.
I think what we can do is right now, like,
Oh, Sanvi wants to add something. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I just want to bring up the point that maybe like when I think there was a point previously, like the senses and the motor organs, they're like kind of like the same thing, but I think they're like they're like definitely like relate in relation to one another, but I don't think that they're the same thing, because if we take the example of someone who can't see or someone who can't hear, they have the physical body part of the ears and the eyes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can actually hear out of their ears or they can actually see out of their eyes. So I think in that situation, the senses and the motor organs are kind of distinguishable. So I think the senses power the eyes and the motor organs, but they aren't necessarily what we can't necessarily say that they're the same thing. They work together and then they're in close relation to one another.
That's a very good point. Yeah. And, so like here in the diagram, it says that the input is happening through sense organs and output is happening through motor organs. But then all the organs, like let's think of internal organs as well, like our digestive system, the stomach, the lungs, like heart and such, they also have responses. So they're also part of the whole motor system and, sensory system. So the primary functionality is input for sense organs, but there is that, a subtle function of output, like what Weber was saying, that the eyes would look around, our nose would like react to the smell, our tongue will move to the taste sometimes. And with motor organs, like now that one is extremely subtle, how they can receive input. And I've actually found out from JJ this morning itself that when you are holding an object, you feel the object because of the touch, there's contact, but the weight that you will feel will be the input that your hand receives. The weight can't be felt by the skin as such. I mean, the skin would feel it, also the hand would feel the weight. Similarly, if you're walking on a ground that is not level, when you're going through a slope, your feet is going to input the data that it is a decline, it is a descent, and then there's an ascent. Ascent. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but like there is an incline, and so you go up and down, and your feet are sensing that. So there are very subtle input and output functions of input functions of motor organs, output functions of sense organs, which are very interesting to think about, and just be curious about what those functions could be. And someone has raised a hand, and after this we'll go on to the next session, next slide. So they put down their hand. Okay, Nitesh uncle, do you have something to add, or shall I move on to the next one?
I think that's a great discussion right now. Like we would like to actually do this thing, like how this process works. Now we had a great explanation by all these participants. And really, and now we need to think about it, how the process normally works, like what the stages that exactly make sure that what we observed, and then when coming out, it's the same thing. How does it work? How does it interconnect between different pieces right now? So I think the next slide would be the stages, that how the stage is happening, and then we can, I would like to throw again to you to explain each and every stages. So can we please go to the next slide? That would be helpful. Now keep that previous slide in your mind, and then these are the stages, like that what I think we can discuss. I would like to ask everybody, what do you think about it? Just define all these stages, that normally if you have any input, it would be grateful. Give example that give things more clear. These are the steps that involve that shown on the previous slide. So I would like to ask, start with whosoever, Deval. They will
Yeah.
raise a question. So these are these 7
No, not
stages are coming.
this is regarding the previous slide, and
Okay.
it is normal in normal scenarios. Yes, each and every action or thinking, it is coming from the mind, but it is not always. Like if we are touching very hot object, we are not we are not getting sensors from our mind that okay, we have to pull our hand back, but before that our body reacts and we just pull our hand.
So you say that there is no mind is not telling anything. You just pull
Yeah,
it
in
out.
that case, spinal cord is involved instead of the mind.
Okay. So there is no involvement of, you think mind is there before you.
In some
Okay.
scenarios, yes. In some scenarios, mind is not involved. Prior to that, body reacts.
Okay. Yeah, keep that in mind. I think there's a definitely next slide will definitely help us out how the process work. Let's go to the next slide. And now you can probably give just another discussion point. Start from object to the conception. So I would like to just invite participants to one by one raise your hand, and then how exactly you can define each item here.
So,
Bawal bhai.
yeah, so just if I just want to emphasize on one of the aspects that I think needed to be discussed more and dive deep into in the previous slide. If you go to the previous slide, please. So the importance of the object itself. I think we focused on the recognition part and stimulation part and sensory organs. I think we need to also focus on the object itself, of how object plays a role, a critical role, for it to be recognized by us. And think about scientifically also any object you take, it emits electromagnetic waves or any kind of other kind of outputs. Constantly, the physical objects are emitting something, and that those emissions from any of the objects plays critical role in stimulation, stimulating the sensory organs. So just keep in mind that while we are discussing the recognition system on our end, on the conscious end, the non-conscious part, which is an object, or conscious part on the object side, plays also a very critical role in recognition system to complete the chain, to complete the flow. Just want to nudge that to you all.
Thank you, Dhaval. Nupun, we can go to the next slide.
Next slide, yeah.
Yeah, keeping that object also in mind. Now there are the 7 steps here that you guys can probably go one by one, object wise. Let's start. You can give example as well how this process normally work based on your experience, and then define each stages. That would be helpful. I think it's a good discussion. Now you described very well on the previous slide. Now this is time to now actually do the different stages. And what do you think about the different stages? How does this work? Please raise your hand. Come on.
I think people needs a little bit of time to think about the words that are there. So let's give them maybe 2-3 minutes to just grasp the concepts and form some concepts, because ultimately they have to also go through the learning process or knowledge acquisition process that we showed in the previous slide. So let them sink in all these words and put the concept in their mind.
Yeah, take any example. Take any example that we do day-to-day activities.
Yeah,
and
just take 3 minutes silence, go through all the words, understand, and then respond. Let's just give them 3 minutes to all.
Maitri has raised her hand. Feel free to speak, Maitri.
All right. See if I can. All right. I think I'm going to start with actually the functioning or more of the structure of the brain, right? So you have the prefrontal cortex, which helps you make some of the decision, but we all do have the reptilian brain. And, when you look at the object, in case of the fear or flight, right, your reptilian brain kicks off and you perceive, you recollect the previous experience, and then you react. And in that case, your prefrontal cortex is not engaged. So your reptilian brain instructs the body to react even before we can figure out whether it is a real fear or not, right? And that's a 450 million years old brain, which we all have. So an example of that would be, let's say if you are in a forest and you hear a noise, and before your prefrontal cortex engages on what that noise is about, your first reaction is to fly out, right? Flight, to run away. And, let's say that noise actually was coming from someone just walking towards you, and it happens to be your friend, not a tiger, right? And then your brain immediately relaxes and say, oh, that's my friend, right? But before we can discern what that is, right, your reptilian brain engages, senses, recollects, has the habit of, constantly scanning the environment, and your first reaction is going to be flight. So that would be my 2 cents.
How does the process starts to start with? That's I think we should dive deep into the transition from 1 to 2 first. How does that start? I mean, we don't look at the object. I mean, something triggers. Something triggers, something stimulates. How does that happen from 1 to 2?
Yeah, so that's
if somebody wants to if somebody wants to add that.
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think, as you said in the previous slide, Dhavalji, that objects are constantly emitting some kind of data, like maybe electromagnetic waves or whatever their color is. So whenever sunlight reflects on them, then they are emitting whatever they reflect something. So this kind of data is constantly being emitted by them, and like our input senses, like eyes, ears, and all, they are constantly receiving information from the atmosphere. So that is how this process takes place, I guess, that this constant emitting and constant receiving thing.
Perfect. So, very well said. Anybody else wants to focus on 1 to 2, the transition from 1 to 2? Somebody used the word tanmatra. Who was that? Who said that?
Sanvi, yeah.
Sanvi.
Okay. I'm just giving a hint. I'm not gonna say anything, just referring to some words that people used.
Sanvi used tanmatra in the first slide.
Sanvi, what is your perspective? How do you correlate tanmatra here or not? So, in this 1, 2, 3 process?
I don't know exactly how Tanmatra fits into the transition between 1 to 2, but what I was thinking about was that there's always something like I think there's something more intricate than just the senses themselves. there's something that power the senses too. So when we see an object, our physical features like the eyes, the nose, they are like they're like the bridge for the senses to understand what's going on. So the eyes themselves aren't what's helping us understand the object or analyze the object. It's what's beyond those eyes and the ears and the nose. And those are like the tanmatras that help key in our sight and our ability to hear things and our ability to smell and taste. So those are the key. They are basically what help us actually deeper analyze the object, not the physical features themselves.
I'll give you an example here. So if there's a camera here, you put a camera sensing an object, for example. If a camera doesn't have a sensor to sense that object, no matter what the object keep on emitting whatever frequency or whatever the waves or whatever, is the camera going to sense it? If it doesn't have a sensory organ or sense, and a receptor, if you will.
I don't think it would be able to sense it, because there are many ultraviolet rays which are going around us, which we can't perceive, which our eyes can't perceive. So basically, they are not equipped for that kind of radiation. So if it's not equipped in us or the camera, whatever, I don't think it would be able to sense those things.
Yep.
Yeah, so like even the sense organs that a typical human body has, it has limited range of receptivity for all the organs. Maybe like you want to talk a little bit about that, like how the stimulation would work with the sense organs that we have.
Aryan, you would like to have your opinion?
Yeah, can you ask the question one more time?
So we were just talking about how a camera wouldn't get stimulated if it doesn't have a sensor. Similarly, we have all our sense organs which are of limited perception. Like we can't receive all the data that is emitted around us, all the information that various objects are stimulating or emitting. So do you want to talk about the sense organs and the limited receptivity?
Yeah, sure. So I think similar to how you said, like the camera, like you can only see some certain things, right? So like, for example, like our normal camera, like the normal iPhone camera or whatever camera you type of use, it's limited to the fact that it can only take pictures, and it does not serve any other function. So like, for example, if you wanted like a thermal camera, it does not have that capability. So like different types of, it can only like perform the function that has been given. So this is similar to our 5 senses, like our eyes, ears, mouth, touch, taste. So like we're subjected to only these 5 types of senses, and we're not able to experience other things that may have happened outside of our 5 senses, because we're not, like, our physical capabilities does not allow so, because we're constrained to these 5 sort of 5 sense objects.
Great. Does someone have something to add, or actually start talking about point 2 to point 3, stimulation to sensation? It's a very subtle step forward, but very important one. Okay, I think you guys don't like this slide. You like the previous slide better. This is a slide to really pay attention to. So whatever's coming to mind, don't hesitate, just speak. Okay, I'm gonna call out people who haven't spoken much yet. So Payal, do you have something to say? From
Let me give a hint. Let me give a hint to all, so that we can help them out. So think about a camera system, very simple camera system. Right? Think about your phone, like you're taking a picture. How does the camera get stimulated? How the camera get then how that sensation of that object happens? How does the camera even think that, oh, this is a car, and then probably there are other applications on your iPhone that even recognizes the object as a car, right? Or face recognition, right? Or even if it can go even further and say, oh, this is this person X or person Y. You know, or think about a computer system, right? If anyone of you is a computer scientist or is learning computer, just try to make a parallelism with computer system. It'll be easier for you to understand the process.
Priyansha?
Yeah, so I feel like with the example of like a camera, like the object, you know, is the camera, or like there's something in the distance that you're taking a picture of, and like with the stimulation, it's like when you first hold up your camera and it tends to be a little blurry, but then in the sensation, like I would say that it starts to focus in on like a main object or something that it's like trying to get into, or like what it's actually taking a picture of. Like if you take just a example of like an iPhone camera, like, you know, like there's a little yellow box and that like highlights the main thing. So I feel like that's kind of similar to like the sensation aspect, where it's like focusing in and starting to actually look in at one specific part to later go through all the other stages.
So think about sensation and perception. Do you think like there's a difference between sensation and perception? With the same iPhone example, maybe you can talk, or another example even.
Yeah, I think iPhone example is a good example to think about. Dhaval mentioned about it. Also, you can think about the CCTV camera. When you install the CCTV camera, comes with a different kind of artificial intelligence. So it can go through all the 7 process, I think. And you can probably elaborate it. Those guys, we have everything. Everybody has a camera, CCTV camera at home. And I think they can give you an alarm that this person is coming. So these are the 7 stages actually coming up. You can elaborate more based on CCTV camera, how the CCTV camera function. That would be helpful. Like everybody focusing on one example, that will be also good. Hirans?
Sorry, did someone say something?
No, Hirans, yeah, you're speaking. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Mideshingal. I just wanted to get to a point saying, I don't know if it's from sensation to perception or perception to recollection, but there is also subjectivity involved. Like if I can give an example, if you're standing near a stove and you accidentally put your hand on the stove, to one person that might not be that hot, to another person they might quickly pull away. Or maybe an easier example to understand is if you're carrying a plate that you just got out from the microwave. For one person, they might have to wear gloves. For another person, they might be able to bear that with their own hands. So that sensation of hot, like through like either, I don't know, chemical, electro signals is processed to your hand and to your brain, and then your brain processes it back to your hand saying that, oh, it's hot, move your hand away. But I think that's where the subjectivity of perception comes into place, where it might not be hot for someone, but it might be hot for another person.
That's a wonderful point, actually. So, like, is there any stage here in the whole 7 steps where there is 100% objectivity or 100% subjectivity? Yes, Aryan.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. We can hear you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please speak. Yeah.
I think objectivity and subjectivity both are there. When you see any object, the persons interpret the object differently. And you showed two circles. To some must be a diagram or the figure. It is a round circle. To some other person, he may think that it is a world because world is round. And then he will say that there is another dot. If thinking spiritually or aesthetically, then he will say that this round circle is denoted by the person, and the smaller circle is Atma. And if you draw another circle in that inner circle, then it is Paramatma. So it is subjective as well as the reality. Realism also will come into picture.
No, that's
Hello.
great explanation. Yeah.
So I mean, one can directly perceive or recognize and come to a conclusion. Of course, that sensation part will come because once you see the object, then you see what it is. So that stimulates your brain. And the processes which you mentioned in the slide, that may continue as it is, or directly itself also you can come to a conclusion and your brain may respond immediately.
Yeah. No, that's great explanation. Thank you, Nilesh bhai. I think, yeah, we have a really great debate here. So I think what we are trying to see that in every steps, like which are particular our sensory organ up to, our brain, everything, how each stages actually work. I think it's very great to discuss this kind of stuff, that what happened during stimulation, what happened during sensation, how do we perceive the things, how do we recollect the things, what instrument is actually involved, how do we recognize it based on some past memories, and how do we come up with a conception. I think it's really good. CC-TMRI is a good example. I think that would be a great idea to actually discuss this thing out. I think we have another 5 minutes right now. So anybody here would like to jump in? And I think probably we have a concluding 10 minutes for JJ to actually provide input. This is a great discussion. We'll continue in the next session. I think really good. We'd like to think more about this thing, and then we will come back next time.
So yeah, what would be nice, because we haven't finished talking about this whole process, the 7 stages, it would be good if you guys think about it after today's session, and then in the next session we'll start with this and then move on to the next thing, to just like really pay attention to every step of the process in observing an object. And I would like, does anyone have something to say right now about the slide?
My just suggestion is that the exercise for next session should be, how does any smart device work? Similar to Dhaval and Mitesh uncle said, like at least focus on a camera. But we are surrounded with lot of smart devices, and all the young people are knowing what is smart devices, including how does Alexa work? How does Google is working? What kind of data when we say that, hey, what is the today's weather? And then what kind of sensation they are getting, what is the algorithm, everything. And I think so these 7 steps will be even a smart thermostat or maybe a smart car, anything what they want, then finish these 7 steps.
That is a wonderful idea.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you, Pratik.
And I think it's really great discussion. Keep it open. We would like to keep it open because this is a really important. think about the object. Dhaval bhai mentioned about it. Don't think about only the subject wise right now. Think about the object. When you see the object, there is empirical evidence that we see the object in front of us. Think about different objects we see interact every day to day, and then how do we come to the conclusion of the conception? And based on the smart devices, everything is based on human. I think how human think about it, now the smart devices function the same way. They're trying to achieve artificial intelligence, everything with emotion right now. But I think these are the 7 stages definitely going to help us to actually figure it out. Each stage is how this thing work. So if nobody has any comment and you would like to put anything, 2 minutes we have it, and then probably we have a concluding speech by JJ Shisham Manojji Goswamiji.
Yeah. And before JJ concludes, I would like to add and really emphasize that we need volunteers. So please volunteer. We want to do these sessions more frequently, and it would be really great to have extra inputs, extra hands when we're preparing the material to talk about. So please reach out to us if you're interested in volunteering. And we'll also, towards the end, after JJ spoken, we'll do a short poll about your experience with the session. And JJ, actually, you can speak now. We're really waiting for you to speak. Thank you, JJ, for being here.
Hello. First of all, I would like to congratulate every participant for their good participation in this topic. For those engineers who are building smartphone, smart camera, Alexa, and Google, etc. For them, naturally, this subject will be an interesting subject. But for ordinary people like us who are using it, not constructing it, so this subject seems to be a little bit dry subject. So naturally, first of all, these all artificial gadgets made of artificial intelligence are copying our behavior, our human brain, our human sense organ, motor organ. But before that, our sense organs, our body, our motor organs, our brain is developed in the natural environment of the duality of object and subject. Now, there has been very debatable issue whether object is a larger set and subject is a subset of it, or subject is a larger set and object is a subset of it, by drawing Venn diagram. The basic point which is involved here is, in this debate particularly, this type of debate, whether subject is a modification of object or object is a modification of subject. So there have been much difference of different schools in Europe, in India, and in other continent also. Some of the thinkers were subjectivist. Some of the thinkers like Marx, Hegel, who claims to be materialist, so they are objectivist. They didn't believe in the reality of the subject because for them subject is a epiphenomena. Perhaps you might not have heard this word epiphenomena. Epiphenomena means not the real phenomena, but it appears to be phenomena. Actually, it is not a phenomena at all. That's called epiphenomena. What is epiphenomena? Subject is an epiphenomena or object is an epiphenomena? That's also a point to be discussed in this. As human being, we have no doubt about our subjective existence. By subjective existence, I don't mean soul or consciousness. Subjective existence, by the term subjective existence, I mean our attribute of observer. So there is some observable phenomena and we are observer. That is the subjectivity. Now, whether this our observer is constituted of the soul, which is not made of matter, or soul, which is a basically conscious phenomena other than the matter, or consciousness itself is an epiphenomena which occurred into interactive mode of the object, like Carl Sagan says that we can create now living cell out of matter in Cosmos. You might have seen that book. So living cell, to produce living cell is not difficult task. But to make it self-conscious is difficult task. And Carl Sagan says that this self-consciousness, such consciousness which can observe itself and also observe the observable surrounding. That's a development of the ages and ages. So it cannot be produced right now in the laboratory. That is one side. But because of the development of artificial intelligence, though we have not been able to produce such cell, which is living as well as self-conscious and the conscious of the surrounding. But the tremendous progress which has been registered in the digital world. So we can digitally, we have produced Alexa, smartphone, smart camera, and all so forth. So again, the question is there. What is the primary function of the subject and the object? So if we have a dualistic bias, the subject is totally different from object, or object is totally different from subject, which as an observable I feel. Because when I see myself that I am observer, and the all world around me is an observable phenomena. So I consider this observable phenomena as a subject, and me as a subject. And in objects, we have a plurality. But my subjective observer subjectivity is always a singularity. So singularity vis-a-vis plurality. Now, there is a question whether singularity is a part of the plurality, or plurality is a multiplication of singularity. That's also a debatable issue that we must think of. First of all sorts of our sense organs, as in the digital world, everything is made of digits. So all sorts of our sense organs or motor organs are merely different types or different levels of the skin. Eyes is also made of skin. Nose is also made of skin. The sensitivity, because before stimulation, between stimulation and sensation, there is a sensitivity. Sensitive is what we call sensitive receiver, receptor. The sensitive receptors exist between the stimulation which is occurred by the objective world, and sensation which happens in the subjective world. But in between them, there is a sensitive receptors. If we have those sensitive receptors, digital as well as in the living cell, then stimulation can stimulate us. Otherwise, stimulation cannot stimulate us, and we cannot have a response of the sensation toward the stimulation. So again, there is a question. Those sensitive receptors are made of matter or made of consciousness, or they are made of khichdi, means conglomerate mix of both. So if they are not purely made of matter, and if they are not purely made of consciousness, then they have to be accepted as a khichdi of both. Perhaps you people know khichdi or not. You being Indian, you must know khichdi. So these are the khichdi's of both material character as well as conscious character. At this juncture, let me make little clarification that whenever I say that material phenomena that acquires space, it exists somewhere in this space. So it is a four-dimensional phenomena, because in space and time it exists. But when I say about the consciousness, consciousness does not exist in space. Why? Because an elephant acquires a space. You can measure it. But the conscious image or my awareness about the elephant does not acquire same space. And even the elephant dies. Forget about the elephant. All the dinosaurs have died now, except remaining few specimens of that they have in the London Zoo or East Indies Islands, Komodo. Some of the specimens are there of dinosaur, still surviving. They have not extincted. So they exist in space and time. But my awareness or the image that I have received in the interaction mode between the observer and observable, that image does not exist in space and time. And it is, so can it be considered as a totally independent from the real elephant? Real elephant means the elephant which is real in time and space, which is four-dimensional. And because this does not exist in the time and space, so can this imagination be considered as unreal? So many a time it so happens that whatever we imagine, we think that it's only an imagination, not real. We have treated these two words, imaginary and real, in contrast with each other. But if that had been the case, artificial intelligence would never be produced, because all the gadgets of smartphone, Alexa or Google, etc., are produced in time and space. So it was a very, very unsounded hypothesis that whatever imaginary is unreal. Though it is not real in the time and space, but still it is real. Here. And the proof is all these artificial intelligence gadgets. So first of all, I think the living cell has developed the sensitive receptor in the skin, and it wanted to survive because it is an adamant cell. Richard Dawkins says, adamant cell. It does not want to die. It does not want to extinct. It goes on surviving by reproducing itself. So the cell, which was a sensitive receptor for the stimulation, which is caused by the objective surrounding, could develop only because objective surrounding was stimulating not in one particular manner. Sandhi has used the term tanmatra. Tanmatra means pure sound. Because please try to understand. When we have a empirical knowledge, which means perception, visual perception, auditory perception, or touch perception, smell perception, all those sorts of perception are not in direct contact with any object. That's why in Indian philosophy, they try to analyze the prapyakarita and aprapyakarita. Prapyakarita means the skin become aware of this pain by touching it. So it is a prapyakari. It reaches to the object and then it receives then it is stimulated and then it produces the sensation, because on the part of the skin there is a sensitive receptor, and on the part of the object, like this pen, there is something which is emitted from it and which come into contact with my skin. Now this developed the touch experience, touch perception. That was the primary requirement. So in many of the species, living species, the primary stimulation is of the touch only. But we know that there was an issue of survival for living cell, being an adamant. So for the sake of survival, it wanted, actually not wanted, but needed to be aware of the surrounding world, even without touching it. And then they developed the aprapyakari sense organs. Our ear is aprapyakari sense organ. We do not require to touch the source of the sound by our ear. We do not require to touch anything which is visible by our eye. On the contrary, if I touch my eye, there is no visual perception. So if I keep a safe distance, then only I can see something. We develop the perception of the smell. Many times, though we touch the rose and perfumes with our eyes or that nose, but we are aware of the smell. When rose is on garden, we can smell it, its fragrance. So from far, remaining far away from the object. So these aprapyakari sense organs. In those days, in old days, in the different stages of the development of the living cell, our motor organs were never aprapyakari. If I have to eat something, I have to touch it. If I have to thrash someone, I'll have to touch it. If I have to catch something, I have to touch it. So all those were aprapyakari, not aprapyakari. But when the arrows were made, which can be thrown and touch the target, of which development is done. Nowadays, we have a missiles and all that. So we are remaining here and shooting missile and it touched the target. So our motor organs is also developed in aprapyakari. Without touching, you can kill someone. A tiger cannot kill someone without touching a deer. An anaconda cannot swallow someone without touching it. So these are all aprapyakari models. But later on, development has made gradually. And coming to this present age of the digital age, motor organ as well as sense organ have developed a tremendous aprapyakarita. Without touching the object, we can interact with it. To the extent that without moving my eye towards you, there are some mobiles which can take the photograph of you. In those Hollywood movies of cowboy, they used to picturize. The cowboy was keeping gun here and could shoot from back, not from front, from back. Cowboys can shoot without such a perfect judgment. So aprapyakarita is developing more and more among the sense organs as well as the motor organ. So because of this development, and it will go further, it will develop more further. But then always question will remain whether our subjectivity is a part of the objective world or objective world is a part of our subjectivity. So I think that when we are discussing all these problems, so we could direct our thought in this direction also. And I must congratulate you all that you have participated so nicely. But what is required on your part is little more boldness. So be aprapyakari. Without touching object, you can shoot your question. Without touching point, you can shoot your questions, queries. So our discussion will be more fruitful and conclusive. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, JJ. Really good discussion. We'll continue this in the next session. And then I would like to request everyone to look at these 7 and then try to come up with an example in your day-to-day activities and how can you correlate based on your modern artificial intelligence, the equipment available, as well as day-to-day of your activities. I would like to just introduce the polls to see how our performance would be and then how can we improve it. Please go ahead and do that. And meantime, I'm going to ask Nupur to conclude.
But before ending, let me ask, the participant could follow me or not? Or it just went bumper?
Yeah, please,
Okay.
please be blunt, please be brutally honest about how you felt the session was, how we
Yeah,
can
it was
improve.
bumper.
Okay.
JJ,
Usual
I've
session.
listened to all JJ's lectures, and he's very, very learned, well read. But to interpret it and analyze it, we have to hear it 1,000 times so that we can, I mean, devolve the full essence of his talk. I think so. Only a learned and very well-read person can only understand. So it was my humble request that, I mean, this is a scientific topic. So if it is said in a very plain and useful language, as if it is explained to a layman, probably then it may have been more interesting. No doubt, JJ's all lectures are very interesting, and I like to hear, I mean, listen to it, whether I can follow it or not. I mean, it's really very enchanting.
You may say for some cookie that it is very tasty, but I don't know what it is.
Anybody else? Aryan, your input, everybody is like, we would like to get your input, make sure that next time we can come up with
my request is that I always want interactive session. So if you do not follow any of the point, I would expect from you to shoot your question, shoot your queries, shoot your objection. And with that, we will be more interactive. Then only we can understand. Now,
Yeah,
otherwise,
and
it will be a search of a black cat in dark room.
And from personal experience, I can tell if you ask a question to JJ, he will ensure that there is a lot of optimism in your voice when you say that, yes, I understood. Otherwise, he will keep explaining.
Thank you.
please participate in a survey so then we know that we are getting feedback from everyone, please.
Yeah, we've got 12 responses. So I think one more person is left to respond, or maybe 2. So please respond.
Please respond
And,
to.
it was really great to see you all today and listen to various opinions and the whole debate. We are very much looking forward to the next session, and we're hoping some of you would reach out and volunteer with us, and this will really help us in doing more sessions in lesser intervals. So it'll be great.
Yeah. Please feel free to send a message on our group so then we can involve you in like we are definitely looking for volunteers to help us out preparing the presentation, also have a good discussion. Would appreciate, please send a message. Thank you.